Good morning, Las Vegas. This is Tina Drago coming to you live with Healthy Las Vegas. We're here to talk to you about donating this year and the healthy choices we should make when donating. Now, I think every one of us out there, when we give, whatever we give, a lot, a little, our time, money, services, when we give, we want to know that what we're giving is actually going and helping somebody. I mean, because that's what makes us feel good about giving, right? Is that we're actually impacting and making a change in somebody's life. So today I want to talk to you about different ways you can make sure, you can be diligent, that when you're giving to an organization, that organization is actually following through. So I want to talk to you about a couple different online programs out there. One of them is called charitynavigator.org. And then there's also a Better Business Bureau version of donating also, where you can put in the organization. It's called give.org, and it's ran by the Better Business Bureau, and it will actually rank different organizations and what you're giving to them also. But so here in the city of Las Vegas, we have a lot of different organizations, and they do a lot of good things. But if you knew that only a fraction of your dollar that you were giving was actually going to help the cause and that the rest was going to help overhead or was going to do operational items, you may choose differently. And that's everybody's prerogative. And so what I want to do today is help you make healthier choices when it comes to donating so that you're getting exactly what you want to get out of every dollar you're donating. First, I want to let you know that a lot of religious organizations, Catholic Charities, Salvation Army, organizations like that are not asked if they hide behind a religious title, do not have to give audited financials. They don't have to submit a 990 tax form each year, and they don't actually have to account for where all the money's going because they're, quote, a religion. So think about that. If you're going to give to a religion, make sure you're giving to one that you know well enough that you understand where the money's going to. Otherwise, it may not be going exactly where you want it to go. Then there's other organizations like American Red Cross who actually some of their chapters are actually rated on the give.org, the Better Business Bureau website, and some aren't. There's actually 124 right now that I can see different Red Cross organizations throughout America, or maybe throughout the world. And some of them are accredited chapters and some of them aren't. So think about that too when you're looking at a big name organization. The local chapters may not be as accredited as the overall, and they may just have to give a percentage of their earnings to the national chapter in order to have that name or that flagship on their particular charity. So look into that as well. Here in Clark County, we have a great way of separating the good charities from the fledgling charities, and that is we have a Clark County charitable certificate. So pretty much anybody with about $850 in their pocket can go out and get a 501c3 if they have the proper mission, they have the proper finances, accounting, and they do everything in the right way to fill out the application for the IRS. You can become a charity. What the Clark County Charitable Certificate does is it separates the men from the boys, so to speak. So yeah, you may have a 501c3 certificate, but are you giving back to the community? How much of your organization, percentage of your organization is actually doing what they say they're doing? How much is going towards overhead or marketing? We're all aware of those heart-wrenching commercials that we see that we see on the weekends. I always say on the weekends because that's when I'm sitting in front of the TV. But those heart-wrenching commercials we see for the veterans, and those commercials that we see for animal cruelty and hungry children abroad, those commercials cost money. And those commercials play pretty regularly. And those commercials are going to tell you right out of the gate that your money, only a fraction of it is going to actually help that child. And that the rest of the money is actually going to running the commercials. So please think with your brain sometimes instead of your heart when it comes to giving to charities. Now, I'm not going to dissuade anybody from giving to a charity. I'll even put my own organization, First Person Care Clinic, up on the block to be scrutinized. Every year we disclose financials. Every year we do a percentage of what actually goes. So we're somewhere in the 92% of everything that we take in, whether it's program generated, like money that we receive from billing for our services, or it's donations, but about 92% goes to the actual taking care of the patient. Actually goes to services that the patient is receiving, whether those patients are receiving counseling or care coordination or actual medical services, or if they're receiving supplies and prescription assistance programs, or if they're receiving any kind of medical equipment. All that money that we earn goes to them. Maybe not even 10%, 8%, somewhere around there, actually goes into the overhead of what it takes to run the clinic. And that's administrative and basically the lights and stuff like that. So even this show is not paid for. This is something that Beasley Broadcast thought was important to the community. So the community got an ongoing idea of what's out there in the community for healthcare. So there's a lot of positive ways you can build relationships in the community without spending dollars. And that's what I want you to look at. And you should actually ask when you talk to people. Now, I'll tell you, I am perfectly guilty. I cannot walk into a grocery store this time of year without going into my wallet and pulling out at least $1. And I go to the grocery store every day. So in and out. So it's $2 a trip. It adds up over time. And then they hit you at the register too. Do you want to round up? Do you, and think about that. We have great veterans programs. If you really want to do something for veterans, donate to Veteran Talk program. They're here. They are actually giving 100%. They are 100% volunteer organization. And every dollar that you donate to the veterans organization, Veterans Talk organization here in Las Vegas, stays in Las Vegas. And that's something important you should also think about. The money that you're spending or that you're donating or investing, is it into your community, or is it going to go somewhere else in the country and help somebody else? And that's just a smart decision. You may think your community is wonderful and that, your community is blessed, which I believe we are, and that the money could go to other areas of the country that are much more needy than we are. And that would be a conscious decision that you make, and that's fabulous. But that's your choice, and that's your decision. And you should make it knowing and understanding all the different aspects of it. So Wall Street Journal a couple of years actually did a article, and it's worth mentioning again. It's worth going through. And the article talks about donating and actually donating to charities this time of year, and that used to be relatively efficient and painless. After watching the Macy's Thanksgiving parade, though, you plunk some money down on Salvation Army bucket, or and wrote some checks, contributed some household items, and you were done. Yet the charities increasingly involved in awareness campaigns, complex networks of causes, marketing, and often exorbitant overhead, donating to most of these effective charities has never been more challenging. And that's what they talk about in their article. And it's worth looking at. If you're a discriminating giver, you'll set some guidelines. Do you want this to help children? Do you want this to help people in the community? Do you want this to go to, a disaster relief program? What's important to you? Do you want it to go for animals? Do you want it to go for awareness and education? Are you looking for a charity that doesn't just ask every year, but actually invests the money that you've donated into making a difference? I call those seed money charities. And that's really important too. When you're looking at seed money, if you're donating, especially if you're a large donator, and we love you large donators, but if you're donating to a charity every year, thousands of dollars, and that charity comes back to you year and year and year with their hand out again and again and again, and you haven't seen that charity grow, you haven't seen their programs grow, you haven't seen them expand in the community, you haven't seen them actually make a difference in the areas that they said they were going to make a difference, you might want to think about where your money's going with those charities. For me, I look at the people that donate to our clinic. They donate seed money, because every time I receive a large donation, it goes into something that can actually enhance and expand the services that we do within the community. So, for example, our big push for the first 2 years was to get an x-ray machine in the community. And not that we don't have x-rays at companies and radiology companies out in Las Vegas and that people can't get to them. But a lot of times it's very difficult for some of the more vulnerable people in the community to actually get to a doctor's appointment, let alone have to go to a lab and then go to a radiologist and then go to a specialist afterwards. It's more painstaking than you can imagine when they have to save up for a week for one bus pass, and that one bus pass is good for a few hours, and they have to make the best of it. And they're coming from maybe an area of town that doesn't have the best bus route. So what would take a drive time, maybe 10, 15 minutes, takes an hour on the bus. And these are things that you don't think about, all the time. But I saw repetitively that our patient population was coming in, and it was a burden on them to actually go get an x-ray. And it was a burden on them to get an ultrasound, and it was a burden on them to get their labs drawn. And so what we did was we saw that as an opportunity for us to grow. And we saw that, and we let our investors and our donors know, hey, if you give to us, the money is going to be put into this program to help these services. Now, our x-ray also is very reasonably priced. So people have an opportunity, if they're taking an x-ray in-house, they can pay us over time. They can pay the nominal fee that we charge to begin with. They can do it today and pay tomorrow. So that gives them options that we can actually then gather the information we need to gather to provide them with the best medical care we can without setting those obstacles and those hurdles of barrier to entry when it comes to healthcare, getting the best healthcare you can. And I'm sure people out there are listening, and I go back to the senior population who has this cacophony of cocktails of different drugs that they're on, and they have to decide between filling their prescriptions and eating a healthy meal. And when you think about it that way, a lot of times people who have health issues and financial issues make hard decisions. We have patients all the time who break their high blood pressure pills in half because they figured one half of it a day is better than none a day, but they can't afford to fill their entire prescription. So when I look at donations, and I had someone just ask me yesterday, what's on your donation list? What would you love? And I said, I want an ultrasound machine. A lot of times we have people come in and they have vascular issues, and it has to do with diabetes, and it has to do with hypertension. And if we had an ultrasound in-house, we would be able to very quickly assess their health issues and be able to help them better, make really smart decisions, and be able to maybe not play the guessing game and not have to put them on different drugs, but be able to be more concise in our diagnosis. And for me, that's a wonderful feeling when we can actually utilize our tools in the clinic and help people have a better health program. I think that's phenomenal. And when you're donating and you're giving the money that you've worked hard for, you should have that same feeling. Am I making a difference? And what kind of difference am I making? Don't be afraid to ask. And honestly, just throwing money at a situation isn't going to make a situation better. There's clinics in this town that are, quote, free clinics, or they are pay-it-forward clinics, or they have all these other ways of being sustainable or not being sustainable, depending on the situation, that you may or may not feel is the best way for you to spend your hard-earned money when donating. Ask questions. Everybody should be willing to show you and talk to you. If a donor came into me tomorrow as a 501c3 and asked to see my financials and wanted to know how I was being sustainable or what the money was going for, it's my obligation, it's my legal obligation actually, to show them my financials and to go over my mission statement and to let them know what the money will be earmarked for. And that's what I got into when I developed a 501c3. That was my conscious decision to do that. So don't feel like you're offending anybody by any stretch. Have that conversation, especially if you're looking at local charities, which I absolutely encourage you to do. Look at local charities. Local charities are doing a lot for the community, and they're giving back a lot. I have to tell you, though, that when you're looking at local charities, know this: children, whether they're poor, undocumented, very ill or not, are all taken care of. There aren't poor children in this city that are not taken care of. They're taken care of by the federal government in the state of Nevada. There's programs, there's oodles of programs that take care of children. Children have a fabulous safety net. They truly, truly do. So that's one of my pet peeves. All these children programs. Children are the best cared for in our society. They're the ones that everybody looks out for. And I think that's admirable, and it has to be done. But there are a lot of people out there that are absolutely have zero opportunity to have any kind of care for them. And those are our elderly people and our middle-aged people. And you might think, well, if you're middle-aged, you should have figured it out by now. But there's situations, and everybody has a slippery slope, and everybody has a situation that allows their individual problem to be their own. I'll give you an example. I have a gentleman, paraplegic, yesterday in my clinic. He's getting Social Security, SSI benefits, because he is completely paraplegic. He has motion in one hand. He said to me, I've been trying to get Medicare. I've been trying to get Medicare disability. And I looked into it for him. According to the federal government, and this is anybody can look this up, if you do not work 10 years in the United States and pay Social Security tax for 10 years, you will never be eligible for Medicare. So think about that. If a 22-year-old gets into a car accident and becomes a paraplegic, he's never worked 10 years in his life. He will never have the Medicare eligibility privileges that somebody that worked 10 years will have. And that was a situation for this person. He was made a paraplegic by a car accident early on, no fault of his own. And, bad place, bad time. And this is his situation. Well, now he struggles. His SSI is moderate to low. It provides for the basic essentials. But he was looking for basically, food, which we ended up helping him get. And he was looking for some sanitary cleansing things, which as a paraplegic, he has his own issues and troubles, which we were able to help him get. But he'll never be able to get more than that, just the basic essentials. People like this, and there are quite a few, they have a need that'll never be met. There's also, our people, because we have a huge diabetes issue, and I'm sure if you've listened to the show before and you've listened to other shows that we have on KDON, you will understand that diabetes is an epidemic and it's running rampant, but it is causing so many other issues. So I know a gentleman who is in his mid-50s who was a lawyer at one time, didn't know he had diabetes, was slipping in and out of diabetic comas, and they make you slur your words. His boss thought he was drunk. Fired him. Ended up losing his marriage, losing his home, losing his job, just the whole roller coaster. Still didn't know he was diabetic, couldn't understand why he was falling asleep, but as a typical gentleman, I'll say, never went to a doctor, never asked, never tried to figure it out until he wound up in the hospital. Fast forward 2 years, wound up in the hospital in a coma with only one foot when he woke up because he lost his foot due to diabetes. And he was homeless at the time. And so you go from being a doctor or from being a lawyer to homeless with one foot. This happens more than you think. And there's a due diligence out there to help these people. We've been able to wrap our arms around it, make sure he gets a home, make sure he gets back on his feet, make sure he gets the therapy. Long road for these people. They don't have a safety net. He worked, but he's not considered, fully disabled because he's smart. He can use his mind. And so the government, takes issue with that. They may give him a little bit of money, but not enough to actually get him back to where he needs to be. So he has to rely on local services such as our own to provide him with those additional resources. That's the type of charity I personally like to get involved in, and that's why I started my organization. But when you think about it, do you want to make sure that the people have an opportunity to give back? He's actually now on his feet, has a home, giving back, and he's doing legal aid for homeless and for other people who have ended up in his situation. Just that slippery slope, that roller coaster that you're not expecting in life. I was just talking to my 22-year-old son, to be 22 again, who said, I never expect to have troubles in life, and I never expect to have this because I'm going to work really hard and I'm going to succeed in life. And you want to give him a big attaboy and a pat on the back and say, that's fabulous, but don't forget, life has some cruel twists and turns, and sometimes it's not always up to you. But if you work hard, you're ahead of the game. And at one point I said to him, well, I didn't think I'd be where I am in my life when I was 22 either. I was thinking a beach with a little margarita and life was blissful. I said, but you know what? I ended up having children and making choices in life for them. And so you can never say never. And you can't always say always, but you can do the best you can every day. And so I look at that and I think there's a lot of people in that situation that never thought they'd be in a bad situation and ended up there. And there's wonderful local resources like the Veterans Transition Program and First Person and other organizations here in Las Vegas that are part of our Resource Community Center that could really use your support this holiday season. And your donations would be greatly appreciated, and they would go towards fabulous programs. And ask. For the Veterans Transition, 100% of every dollar you donate will go to the program, will go to helping veterans transition from active duty into civilian life. And 92% of the money you donate to First Person Care Clinic will actually go to making sure the patient gets taken care of and that they receive the highest quality of care that they can receive in the state of Nevada. And by the way, not to toot my own horn, but here it comes, toot toot. We just received the Health Insight 2015 Medical Office Quality Award, and I am ecstatic about it for the state of Nevada. So for the entire state of Nevada, we have a high quality medical clinic, and we've been awarded for it for 2015. So for me, I think that's an absolute fabulous thing because I want people to recognize that just because we're a nonprofit medical clinic, that doesn't mean we can't provide the absolute highest quality of care out there. We're a teaching clinic for the universities. We work in a team-based atmosphere, and every one of our patients gets touched by different areas, whether it's case management, care coordination, the medical staff, the assistant staff, to make sure that all their needs that can be taken care of are taken care of. And we love a challenge, so come on down to 1200 South 4th Street and let us help you. We are always looking for patients. We're growing, and I can't wait. This spring is our goal to open up our second clinic out at Aliante and 215 with the Veterans Transition Organization and the and the Southern Nevada Health District, to where we can provide an entire comprehensive program to people in need in the north part of town. This is Tina Drago with Healthy Las Vegas. Thank you for listening.